I'm Satara Bartor and this is a Quays News special, The Pandemic a Year On. Coming up on today's programme, what do the impacts of COVID mean for first-time buyers?
It was the worry of, are we actually going to get this house?
Yeah.
Like, has COVID sort of stopped us from buying a house here?
With tourism potentially opening up in a matter of weeks, how do people living in the Lake District feel about people from outside the area visiting?
Last year are that a small minority, but a far bigger number than normal, didn't treat the environment or residents with as much respect as we'd like.
And what's going to happen to the thousands of pandemic puppies bought during lockdown when life goes back to normal? Good afternoon. A year ago, the World Health Organization was just hours away from a shocking announcement that the spread of COVID-19 was a pandemic. Britain was a couple of weeks away from its first lockdown, but that announcement gave us all an indication of what was to come. In our special programme today, to mark this historic anniversary, we will look at what we've all been through this past year, some of the challenges we face now and what lies ahead. But we begin with a reminder of the 12 months that changed everyone's life.
I was at a hospital the other night where I think there were actually a few coronavirus patients, and I shook hands with everybody.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
As it stands, there's currently 596 cases of coronavirus in the UK.
Worried shoppers are panic buying products and retailers have begun to restrict sales of essential items.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
Stay at home, please stay at home.
An eat out to help out discount.
We have started to see some resurgence in some countries.
It can't be right to do that. How can we carry the public with us?
I'm worried about my child's education. I'm not a teacher.
You're quite emotional about that.
My mum has had the vaccine.
A pathetic 1% pay rise.
We will continue on this roadmap.
How to recover from pet loss and published it during lockdown.
I flexed my writing muscles and then I joined an online poetry competition. It was with World Humanitarian Drive. And then I was awarded as one of the top winners. Staying at home all day, binging on TV shows and movies. We're dressed in PJs, sofa is our throne. Dreaming, planning, resting, healing ourselves and nature. Experimenting on our play and creativity palette. What can we learn today? A new language, hobby, craft, skill, level up? What can we support? Even a 99-year-old war veteran can walk to raise millions in donations. Why can't we? Just giving fundraising to help those in need. We work from home, mingle with our family and friends online. We fight the virus from spreading. Together, one world at home, while frontliners work around the clock to keep life moving. Staying at home all day, we could be heroes. Who knew?
That was Viva's award-winning poem, Who Knew? Whilst employment figures have fallen through the pandemic, house prices across the country have increased. But as restrictions begin to ease, there is some good news for prospective buyers. Anna Cooper reports.
In his budget announcement last Wednesday, the Chancellor unveiled his initiative to turn Generation Rent into Generation Buy. Rishi Sunak has extended the stamp duty holiday and given a government guarantee to lenders that provide mortgages to those that can only afford a 5% deposit. The COVID pandemic had huge ramifications on prospective buyers, especially first-time buyers. In a study by Aldermore, nearly half of first-time buyers said their plans were delayed by an average of 11.4 months. 1 in 6 had a property sale fall through, and 1 in 5 had to pull out of buying their property due to lockdown. Rosie Harper and Ben Atkins were amongst the many buyers in lockdown whose plans on buying their first home were put on hold.
We had to apply for our mortgage another 2 times after that because of the delay of materials people stopped working in that pandemic.
It was a bit disheartening every time they called up and said, okay, it's another month down the line, another month down the line.
It was the worry of not the delay, it was the worry of, are we actually going to get this house?
Yeah.
Like, it has COVID sort of stopped us from buying a house here when it was okay before, but we got through it.
Matt McCulloch from specialist mortgage lender Aldermore thought the Chancellor's announcement was a step in the right direction.
So the higher LTV is where you want to be. Because of COVID, that disappeared overnight pretty much. Lenders are starting to come back into it now, but with the government-backed scheme, lenders will flock into that now. The danger is we don't want the 95% scheme to be seen to be stimulating. It really must be driving generation buy.
I think it's great because obviously it's going to open up the door to a lot more people now that can get onto the ladder.
From the 22nd to the 27th of March, First Time Buyer magazine will be hosting National Home Buying Week, a one-stop guide at helping buyers get their first foot on the property ladder.
We thought the National Home Buying Week was a great idea to bring it all together in one place where you literally can read about every individual step of the way, all the different schemes that there are out there.
But what do all of these new developments mean for Manchester?
I would say the further central you get, the less likely you are to buy there. You've got city centre flats where they've got a gym, a concierge, a restaurant on the bottom floor, all these things. Them offices they work at might be closed, might be all remote based from now on, so that becomes a bit irrelevant for them. These city centre developments might become a thing of the past.
Those were some images and voices that tell the story of what we've all experienced in the past 12 months. In a moment, we'll be looking at the impact lockdown has had on our lives. But first, Jolie is here with us to talk through the year in numbers. So Jolie, 1 year on is a very good time to reflect. We've had daily statistics making up a really important part of our lives to understand the impact of the virus. What are the latest figures?
Well, if we start looking back at this time last year, there were 265 recorded cases of coronavirus within the UK at that point. Now today, in the last 24-hour period, there has been another 5,766. And this now takes the UK's total of coronavirus numbers to over 4.2 million, with the highest case numbers being recorded back in December when 81,572 people were tested positive in one 24-hour period. Now, yesterday there were another 231 deaths within 28 days of a positive coronavirus test. Now, in terms of the global picture, Satara, there has been 115.6 million cases now recorded worldwide. And so far, the highest recorded numbers have been in the US, India, Brazil, and followed by Russia, the UK, and other European countries.
So that's quite a few stats for us to get our heads around. What's the latest with the vaccines?
Well, now, unlike with last year, there are actually a few different vaccinations available around the world, 3 of which have been approved within the UK now. And the UK vaccination programme has now entered the second phase of its distribution programme. So that means that those over 70 and who were in the vulnerable category, care home residents, healthcare workers and people required to shield, they have all been offered their jab by mid-February, and now we're looking at other parts of the population being offered their vaccinations. Now, 22.5 million people have now had their vaccines in the UK, and there's also been a lot of discussion about the possibility of vaccine passports being introduced. And looking at what a YouGov poll found, 72% of Britons thought that care homes should require vaccine passports, and also 56% of people thought gyms, pubs and bars should also require these sorts of measures.
And you've talked there a lot about people and how they're reacting to the vaccines as they come. How are people coping?
Well, according to another YouGov poll, 65% of people have said that coronavirus lockdown and pandemic in general has really impacted on their mental health in a negative way. Now, we've been asking some of our viewers on social media how it's been for them. And for some of them, like Wendy and Viva, it's been a real chance for them to focus on their writing.
And we heard that lovely poem from Viva earlier in the show. Now, with people allowed to travel for exercise in just a few weeks, tourism in the Lake District is set to increase dramatically. But do the residents feel prepared to welcome visitors back? Lucy Baxter reports.
The Lake District, a popular destination normally filled with tourists, but in lockdown the lakes and roads are empty. With COVID restrictions easing and tourists soon allowed to travel back to the lakes, are residents excited or apprehensive? Tweedy's, a pub and hotel in Grasmere, has only just managed to stay open thanks to the furlough scheme.
Obviously, we're keen to reopen and welcome people back, but there is a bit of a fear that the numbers could go up once we're able to reopen, and there's other sort of issues as well. There's quite a big thing at the minute. People are concerned about sort of litter, and Grasmere is such a beautiful place.
Tweedy's, renowned for its annual beer festival, is well prepared for reopening with its huge beer garden in a few weeks' time.
We've got sort of 30 tables out there, so it's a big space and definitely worked to our advantage. So we're very grateful to have that space.
But are people missing their trips to the Lake District, and will there be a problem when tourists return?
For me, I guess being in the lakes is like a sense of freedom. It's like my bit of downtime. So at the moment, I kind of feel like not stuck at home, but I guess it's just being up on the mountains and taking in the views, and I can't really get that at home the same.
We're a welcoming community. I'd hate COVID to change our outlook so we became a less welcoming place and less welcoming people. We love the fact we have visitors, and obviously our economy is hugely based upon that. Our experiences of last year are that a small minority, but a far bigger number than normal, didn't treat the environment or residents with as much respect as we'd like. And so we have something called the countryside code in this country. It's simple stuff, it's not rocket science, but it might not be immediately apparent to lots of people. And so the government needs to spend an awful lot of time now and some resource, starting today over the next few months, in pushing that out over every channel they have available to them, so that people, when they come to the lakes, can know how to respect it.
If you are planning a trip to the lakes in a few weeks' time, the message is clear. Respect the countryside, respect the locals, and leave nothing but your footprints. Lucy Baxter, Quays News.
After a surge in pet ownership during lockdown, UK supermarkets have warned of a shortage of dog and cat food in stores. Izzy Bushell has been finding out more about this high demand for dogs and the growing rates of people returning their pets.
Now, being at home all the time can make you feel like there's something missing, and that getting something like a dog will fulfil the loneliness of lockdown. But is this a good idea?
Well, the UK charity Dogs Trust may tell you to think again, because during the easing of the first lockdown, their number of calls for dogs to be handed back increased, with 55 in May, 83 in June and 101 in July. They now predict that by the end of this third lockdown, there'll be 40,000 more handed back stray or abandoned dogs. This is because our furry friends will struggle to adjust to the separation from their owners when they can go back to work. But does lockdown cause this?
Separation anxiety is what they will suffer. Being with your dog, being with your children is fantastic, but it's how you are, helping them to be comfortable in their own skin with or without you while you are at home.
Many people have chosen to get a dog in lockdown to benefit their mental health. But how has having a dog in lockdown helped people?
She's sort of got me through it, really. She's something to get up for and get out walking for.
While some people need their companion in lockdown, others have decided to wait until they are back to working their normal hours.
Not going to sort of be in a honeymoon situation where
we're off all the time with this dog. Actually, this is maybe more like the situation we'll have to for the next, goodness knows how many years. And actually, therefore, that's probably better.
Another issue is that the high demand of dogs throughout all 3 lockdowns has caused the prices of puppies to increase. Last year, breeds such as Cavapoos went up to a staggering £2,800. But why have breeders done this?
One of the most popular breeds of puppies are French bulldogs, which may have been £1,000 before lockdown last year, trading for well over £2,000 a puppy now. And some people have said that they've actually changed hands at £5,000 a puppy. So some people think, well, if I have a litter of puppies, I can have 7 puppies at £5,000 each, is £35,000, without thinking about all the expense involved.
Overall, the cost of getting a puppy and having to train them in a situation where we are stuck indoors may influence the decision to wait until things are back to normal. However, we can see why having an addition to the family can fulfill the loneliness of lockdown.
And the weather for you next. If you've been wondering what the rest of the week looked like, it's gales, hail and rough seas. That's the Met Office predictions for the next few days, as England is issued a yellow weather warning and told to brace itself for fierce winds. Across the country, intermittent showers will break up the rest of today, but going into this evening and carrying over into Thursday, there will be a stormy turn in the weather. Strong wintry winds are coming from the west, and in some coastal areas there will be wind strengths of 70 to 80 miles per hour. Even in the mainland, residents need to brace themselves for strengths of up to 50 to 55 miles per hour. Boris says stay home, and you may want to with the blustery gales to come. That's it for our Pandemic 1 Year On special programme. As most of us try to look forward to a more positive year ahead, we end today's show with the women of Manchester who, to mark International Women's Day on Monday, told us what they hope to achieve in 2021. Thank you for watching and have a good evening.
I choose to challenge.
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 I choose to challenge equal pay and equity for women in the workplace. Sometimes it seems no matter how talented we are or how empowered we are, we still have to fight twice as hard to get where men seem to get quite easily.
We are sisters and co-founders of Crow, which is a sustainable and inclusive womenswear brand based in Manchester.
I exist at the intersection between gender and race.
I choose to challenge the face value of diversity and inclusion.
Debunk the stereotypes, in particular about Muslim women. Challenge those people. People think that all Muslim women are oppressed, that we're controlled by men, and etc., etc. And the irony is we're all unique.
I became a councillor. I was the first visibly Muslim Arab woman to become a councillor at Manchester City Council, even though there are lots of, visibly Muslim women across the city. We live in a very diverse part of the country.
So many women in sport that are absolutely incredible that certainly don't get shouted about enough.
Women with learning disabilities are just women.
I was the youngest black female in my department. My biggest challenge is not being allowed to own my achievements as a woman of colour.
They say knowledge is power, but that doesn't mean that only certain people should have that power.
It isn't on women to do the work, it's everybody to do the work. So I think it's just a time to celebrate and also think, keep pushing forward, really.
You are who you are, and, everyone should love you no matter what.
Women are great, women are diverse, and if anything else, women are strong.
It breaks my heart that we need it, that we need a day to raise these issues. Keep pushing harder and keep pushing that boulder up the hill, and nobody stop, everybody do their little bit.
My hope is that one day we don't even have to celebrate because we're celebrated every day.
My future depends on the choices I make. I will not let the world choose for me.
We choose to challenge.